Hey, thanks for joining us online. My name is Sonia. I'm the Connections Pastor here at Artisan Church, and I want to take this opportunity to invite you to see our fall events calendar. Now, this is a moment where you can go online, you can figure out something to do for everyone in your family in order to get connected. All the way from your kids, your youth, to your adults, we have things for you to do to help you build community. We also value generosity. This is an opportunity for you to practice giving. Now, I love it. Pastor Sam says, as Christians, we want to be known for generosity. So this is your opportunity. You can click on the link below. Thanks for joining us today.
We are in the final week of this message series, and the next weekend, I'm going to encourage you. It's Labor Day weekend. If you're in town, be in the room. Don't wait and catch up online. I know there's a lot of things we're trying to sometimes handle Labor Day weekend before getting back to school and all the other things, but if you're in town, be here. We've got somebody who is a mentor of mine, a personal mentor of mine, because I trust his voice on that level. He's somebody that has spoken into our process as a church behind the scenes as he's spoken into me. His name is Pastor Douglas Graham, and right now he is the assistant superintendent of the Assemblies of God. He's also the interim president of North Central University. And it's just an awesome guy. And one of the things I love about Doug Graham is he is somebody who has, for me, as a pastor, he's gone first and done it well. He pastored a church phenomenally well, built it, raised up a young generation to then take over the church, who then took it further than where he had, which is a testament to his leadership. His kids love the Lord. They're serving in church. It's a trusted voice coming in, speaking in. And so I just would encourage you to be here and don't miss out on this opportunity. I'm going to be sitting front row. Renee and I aren't missing. We're not bringing him in because we're out of town. We're bringing him in because we believe he's got a word for us. Amen? There's a difference. There's a fill-in, there's a pulpit fill, and then there's people that you request because you believe for a specific time their voice is needed, and this is that. And so please be here next Sunday. But today I'm going to preach. I'm going to give you the title right out of the gate. I'm going to break the preacher's rules of teasing the title for a while. I'm going to give it to you right away. And today the title is a statement that hopefully the sermon will help us understand and even prove. The statement is, rest is a requirement. Rest is a requirement. I got some good amens off that one. Okay. Rest is a requirement. And you may amen this naturally, but I have been on what I would call a unique journey with the word rest, okay? I have been on this extensively long journey to figure out what does it look like for me to rest. And if you don't know me, if you're newer here, rest is not easy or natural for me. It takes effort and time and intentionality. And I've been on what I would call a rest journey. What does it look like to rest well? And for me, I've been trying to, especially over the last year or so, to really challenge this word and say, okay, what does it look like to rest well? What does it look like for me to rest well? My natural go-to is workaholism. My baseline is work harder, do more things, and to press. And what the reality is, I've seen what it's produced. My wife has seen what it's produced. It does not produce good fruit. It produces burnout. It produces frustration. It produces a low emotional fuse, a short fuse. It's produced toxic things in my life when I give way and I just excuse workaholism. And so I've been on this long journey, and so today I'm going to actually speak on this very passionately because this is a topic that over time I have grown in my passion of. And for me, I finally feel like I'm at a place where I can share because I've grown in this, but I have not arrived, okay? I'm speaking from a place of avidly working on this topic, and my passion has grown to a place where I believe this is just an essential message if we're going to navigate our culture and our world in 2023. Rest needs to be a conversation we are talking about all the time. And I think one of the problems is sometimes we think, well, Jesus didn't rest. Jesus, he was out there changing the world. I got to be just like Jesus. And what's so interesting is sometimes that mentality can creep in, and yet Jesus rested constantly. He had rhythms of rest. And even in fact, it took him until he was 30 to even go public in ministry. What was he doing? He was in a season of preparation. He had anonymous years for decades. We see him in the temple at like age 12 or 13, and then it goes dark, and also he comes back on the scene. He was okay with anonymity. He was okay with even decades of this being behind the scenes until he pressed into ministry. But you see this consistent rhythm that Jesus has of his rest, where he would pull away. He would go off into solitude. He would pray. He would get time away. But not only does he go after rest, we see him value rest for his followers, those practicing the way of Jesus, his disciples. And no more clearer than in Mark chapter 6, verse 30. You can turn there if you've got your Bibles. Mark chapter 6, verse 30 says this: the apostles gathered around Jesus and reported to him all that they had done and taught. They'd just come back from a time of public ministry. He sent them out in twos. Miracles were happening, healings were happening, casting out demons, doing things by Jesus' name. And now they came back and they reported to him all that they had done and taught. Then, because so many people were coming and going that they did not even have a chance to eat, there was so much activity that they started to set aside care for their bodies, that they started to set aside the things that are natural to a healthy human. Have you ever had a season like this? You ever forgotten to eat? Have you ever grinded so hard? Some of you guys are in the room and you're like, Pastor Sam, I've never forgotten a meal in my life, okay? I think about food. I love food. I do not miss it. And for me, that is something that I lose sight of. But all of us in the room, you've got something that when you get too busy, you stop doing. Some form of care. You see, this is a national, look, it's Bible. It's right here. They stopped basic self-care. They didn't even take care of themselves because there was so much coming and going. So then does Jesus glorify that? Oh, is he always going around bragging to everybody like, I'm just so busy. You wouldn't believe how busy I am. My schedule is more packed than your schedule. The amount of people that need something from me, let me tell you, I forgot to eat today. Is he bragging about it? No. What's his response? Come with me by yourselves to a quiet place and get some rest. So they went away by themselves in a boat to a solitary place. We know that they then get there and a crowd met them there and they had to minister and they fed 5,000 people, but then they pulled away again. He went back into prayer, sent them off in a boat. You begin to find this rhythm. But here we see the heart of Jesus through the words of Jesus. Hey, I sent you out. You worked hard, but I know how you're designed. I know how you're made. You can't keep this up. I can't keep this up. He was fully God and fully man, but that man was getting tired. He was getting worn out. We even see that with the woman with the issue of blood, when she touched Jesus, he actually felt power go out from him. So to act like Jesus had some like reserve of energy that we don't know, he felt drained. He would feel the drain of ministry and needed to pull away and rest. And then he valued that rest for his disciples. But what's so interesting is, for me, I have no idea your whole life of sermons that you've heard. I grew up in church, and up until like the last 2 years, I'd never seen a message produced on rest. Never. I'd not seen this, and there's one prominent, if you want a really good book on this, and it's become a very prominent Christian book by John Mark Comer, The Ruthless Elimination of Hurry, has really opened up this conversation in church, has really ushered it in. But the reality is, it's so interesting that a topic that Jesus values, I've heard so little content on growing up in church. And it's so interesting that he puts it even this strongly. This is, again, words of Jesus, Matthew chapter 11, verse 28. Come to me, all who are weary and burdened, and I will give you rest. So not only does he invite his disciples, he actually declares it for all. He's saying, I've actually got a gift for you. I want to give you rest. Now, see, that's backwards. Because American culture, if you're going to rest, you got to earn it. You better work hard enough, and you better work more and do more and be more active and more busy than everybody else to finally get to a place where you deserve some rest. But then typically what we do is our form of rest, maybe it's a vacation that leaves us more tired than when we left. It's a grind. It's stressful. You're out of your rhythms. You're trying to figure out travel and navigate the airline system, which apparently they just decided that COVID was going to break them and they were never going to fix it. Flight attendants during COVID, they got to be mean and they've never stopped. I'm like, come on, serve me pretzels. I need my ginger ale because I have a sensitive tummy. Come on, help me out. Like, why are you so crabby? Right? Like we go on things and we go on these trips and we go on these dramatic things to try to recover rather than fighting for a rhythm of rest in our life. Ultimately, the reality is I remember I went away. This was really formative. This actually began my journey asking this question. I went away on a rest trip with a bunch of pastors. It was dramatic. It was in Montana. It was fly fishing. It was amazing. It was amazing. And actually, this board, our elder board, voted to send me. It was a blessing of this church to get me some rest after lunch and all this stuff. And I'm there, and we're going around the table talking, and they would do these night talks to invest in lead pastors. And every single pastor is like, you don't know how bad I need this. I'm so fried. I'm so burned out. And there was this one pastor, and he was obnoxious with how much energy he had. It was almost annoying me at first. I'm like, dude, we're all here because we're burned out. Come on. Like, we're all supposed to rest. And he's just waited. He was a little bit older. He was in his 50s. A bunch of younger pastors around the table, and he just waits and comes to him, and he goes, I just want to challenge all of you. He goes, I'm not here because I need it. He goes, I don't need this. I want this. And if you're at a place where you need this, where every single year you got to take a week just to recover, just so you can keep going, you're doing it wrong. You're leading your life incorrectly. You're not managing and I just remember being so convinced. He said it in love. It was not mean. He wasn't being mean. But I saw in him, I go, I believe you. Because you're just happier than all of us. You just have this joy. And throughout that week, he began to talk about some of his pace and some of his schedule. And I started to realize, I'm resting wrong. I'm not doing this. And here's the challenge. Here's a way to know if you've rested wrong. Anybody here, I need 100%. Everybody has to participate. None of this, like, I want to raise my hand, but I feel weird. We're just all going to participate. Have you ever woken up tired? Then you got to work on rest. If we are waking up tired, then you've already learned the lesson that rest is not sleep. Rest is not sleep. There's got to be more to it. What Jesus is inviting us to, I will give you rest, it comes from the Greek word anapao, with a word that means to refresh, rejuvenate, reinvigorate, revitalize. Revitalization, refreshing, reset, reinvigorate. This is not just sleep. This is not just passing out on the couch in the midst of all the noise and crazy because you're so tired you could sleep anywhere. This is rest. This is rest. This is something deeper for your souls that he is inviting you to receive. He wants you to get in the rhythm of this that he built into his life. We got to stop bragging about being so busy. We got to stop bragging about our calendars. And one of the challenges, I do feel like I need to debunk a lie because I had this. I think one of the first lies is always, well, I don't have time. I can't find the time. Maybe you said that phrase, I can't find the time. Church, can I tell you, I have never found time. I only ever make time. I have never found time a day in my life. There is not enough time. But I can make time for what I value. So how much do you value that? We're going to get back to that even later on. We have to fight for rest because do you know you're actually designed for rest? Go back to my message on the Sabbath. The Sabbath we'll talk about throughout this message, but I did a whole message just on the Sabbath, and we talked about we are literally designed to align with our Creator. He made us intentionally, and He needed to rest. He chose to rest. He built in this rhythm of 6 days on, 1 day off. There's this by design. We are designed to be rest. So I want to challenge us with a question today that I'm sure you have an answer for, but hopefully we might challenge our answer to this question. And I would encourage you to take notes today. This is the kind of message that it's only going to be helpful if you take the notes, and you're going to need to process it, because I'm actually going to go somewhere with this that you're going to need to write things down. So please take notes. So you have the title, Rest is a Requirement. You might want to write down Mark chapter 6, verse 30 through 32, which we already read. You might want to write down Matthew chapter 11, verse 28. And then I want you to write down this question. What does rest mean to you? You can personalize it. You can say, what does rest mean to me? What is rest? What do I consider rest? We need to answer this question. This rest that Jesus is inviting us into is probably different than the way in which we've been resting. If you're coming in and you're drained and you're fried and you feel like you've been burning the candle at both ends and you feel like you've got nothing left to give and you're absolutely exhausted, one, cut yourself some slack. You're probably doing better than you think you are. But two, there might be some things that are out of rhythm. Maybe you've had the same conversation I've had with about a dozen different people in the last 2 weeks. Maybe you've heard this. I can't wait for fall to come because I want my rhythm back. I want to get back into rhythms because it's so hard to rest without a plan. It's so hard to rest without a schedule. It's so hard to rest without intentionally creating boundaries around it, protecting it, and going after it. But we need to ask ourselves, what does rest mean to you? But as I went on a personal study for me, Webster's dictionary did not help, because Webster's dictionary has 8 definitions for rest as a verb and 6 definitions for rest as a noun. This word is deep, like it's wide, like there's a lot to this word. So what does it mean? What is Jesus? What is Anapao? What is this rest that he is really talking about? And how do I get it? What does it look like? And I've been doing research and studying it, but there was a moment that really sparked this journey for me. And it's like a moment I'll never forget. I got invited, I think it was late last year, and I've been coming off this Montana trip all year trying to figure this out, kind of failing, really trying to Sabbath, really trying to figure out these things. Wasn't quite working. And all of this is in this attempt. I've been burned out, really, really burned out once, and I never want to get there again. The reality is, if you understand your nature, you know you've got limits. Once you know you've got limits, it actually makes rest start to seem a lot more appealing. Hey, I've got limits, and I need to figure this out. You need to figure this out, or a meltdown's coming, a breakdown's coming. It will come. So we have to figure this out. I got to figure out rest, and I got invited to go play hockey on a Sunday night. And they're like, it's a really competitive group. It's a closed group, but do you want in? We need extra skaters. And the first thought that went in my head is Sunday night. That's the worst night possible to play hockey. I'm exhausted. I just preached 2 messages. We had welcome home lunch. I'm tired. I've been building up to this all week. Monday's my day off. I gotta have my Monday, then I can go play hockey. But I decided to go. And I get out on the ice, and I'm thinking, I'm going to be terrible. I'm so tired. But all of a sudden, I get on the ice, and I just come alive. And I just start to have the best time of my life. I start to feel energy course through my body. I actually play great. I'm skating hard. The hour and a half flies by, and I'm like, can we go another hour? And I all of a sudden, I realized that my mind got so at ease, and I was able to rest my mind that I'd been working my mind at such a level all Sunday, but my body wanted to engage in something physical. And when I engaged in hockey, something came alive. And then I got home, and I had slept like a baby. And then I woke up for my Sabbath. Monday's our only day off, our actual day off. And so if I don't email you on Mondays, that's why, because I won't. And so it's my day off. And I woke up rested. And I felt great. And Renee and I had a conversation. She's like, you need to keep playing hockey. Like, you're a better version of yourself when you're playing hockey on Sunday nights. And I just started to realize, okay, wait, why did hockey feel restful? Is there something more to this word than just passing out on the couch, again, than just sleeping, not enough sleep? Like, is there something more to this? And I've come across this TED Talk from Dr. Sandra Dalton Smith. And she's a doctor, but she's a Christian. She's spoken on programs like Focus on the Family and Daystar and all these different Christian organizations. But she also, mainly, she's in the secular world speaking about rest. And she wrote a book on this, but there's this TED Talk that's phenomenal. And a lot of people have done studies on, obviously, there's not just one type of rest. There's got to be multiple. And how many are there? There's been a lot of speculation. And really, she aligns with some other doctors that believe that there's 7 types of rest. 7 types of rest. And this is a merging of biblical truth and the science of how you were made, the diversity of your mind, body, spirit, how unique you are. It's taking all of these things into account. So this list, I want to be clear, I'm not saying this is gospel, okay? But can it be helpful? I think it can be helpful, right? And so she breaks down that there's actually 7 types of rest. And that for many of us, you're not feeling rested because you're resting incorrectly. Essentially, you're resting the wrong parts of yourself. That you've got deficits that you're not taking care of. And so you are exhausted, you are fried, and you're a bad version of yourself sometimes because you're not doing this intentionally. And so the 7 types, again, these are going to be rooted in Scripture and science. But the first one is the obvious one. This is usually what we limit rest to, physical rest. Physical rest, which can be passive or active. It could be really essentially doing nothing physically, or it could be doing something light physically, something that I'm resting parts of my body, but I'm going to do something physical in nature, but it's light. And here's the reality. Physical is actually a fairly easy one to nail down because how many of you know your body kind of screams at you? If you lift too many weights with your upper body, how many of you know the next day you're like, oh, I can't lift weights in my upper body. I got to work legs today, right? It tells you, I'm sore, you know? It reacts and you feel physical symptoms, and so we should respond. And so obviously, if you are absolutely physically fried, maybe you work with your hands, you've got a labor job, and you are physically fried, your rest has to incorporate physical rest. You know, I've heard it said, a powerful quote for me was, if you work with your mind, rest with your hands. If you work with your hands, rest with your mind. And so for me, right, why did hockey give me energy? Because I was working with my mind all day, and I rested with something physical. But physical rest. What does your body need? Listening to it, understanding those things, and actually giving your body what it needs. Taking care of your physical body and being intelligent and going, what does it need? What does it need? And this goes into more than just working out or fitness or overall fatigue. Are you handling your body well? Am I being intentional with what I put into my body? Am I listening to my body and responding? For some of us, rest is not really possible because we're not listening to our bodies well. Physical rest. Next one is mental rest. Mental rest. This one's a little more nuanced, right? But a sign that you need mental rest is if you can't turn it off. If your mind is running 1,000 miles a minute and you're just flying, a million thoughts running through, and you can't control, if you're at a place in your life where you can't control the thoughts and they seem to control you, this is an area you need to dive into. And I'm not a mental health expert. I'm not a psychologist. I'm a pastor. But there is a lot of mental health issues that are going on right now in our day and age. I love that the stigma has come down, but at the same time, we got to actually do the work. We don't just want to be diagnosed with a mental issue. We actually just got to say, hey, I want to fight for health in my mind. I want to do the things. I'm going to do the steps, and it might be hard. For me, I found turning off my mind, I used to call it impossible, to be honest. My mind runs so fast, so fast. I even remember one time Renee and I, we were dating, and she was at North Central at the time. We were sitting in the lobby of North Central, and I was explaining how my mind works. I was like, it runs so fast. She's like, tell me. And I told her all the things about the room I was noticing. And I went on and on and on for minutes and minutes. I mean, I notice everything. My mind is just going, and it's just the way I was designed. So was I designed wrong? Or do I need to be really intentional about my mental rest? Like on my Sabbath, do I need to be so intelligent about what I talk about? Because actually a conversation is going to make me start to think about it. If I have to avoid problems on my Sabbath, be like, that's dramatic, Pastor Sam, there's always problems. Yeah, but there's usually not a lot of problems that need to be dealt with today. How many of you know that? Like most problems that you deal with are going to take time to solve anyways. So I'm not helping myself by thinking about all the problems on my Sabbath. I have to work really, really hard to protect my mind because once it gets going, it's really hard to stop it. So I've got my reset. I play hockey on Sunday nights. It gives me a mental reset. Why? Because when I'm on the ice, I only think about hockey. And a mental rest often is helped when you find the thing that takes all of your attention. Find a hobby or an interest or something that when you do it, all the cares of the world sort of melt away. And I don't mean going numb and doing a sensory overload, because we're going to get to the sensory side of it and just binging out on Netflix, and there's moments for that. But what are some really healthy things that can help your mind rest? Sensory overload is not going to be a rest for your mind. You got to figure that out, because the next one is sensory rest. And I don't need to argue this point at all. We all know sensory overload is normative now. It's constant. And the mental health dilemma in our nation is a byproduct of nobody taking sensory rest. I have started another discipline. When I pull into my driveway, my phone goes automatically on Do Not Disturb. Do you know you can set it according to like where you are? It goes on to Do Not Disturb when I'm home. Why? Because my phone is a sensory overload for me. Things ping. Why? Because I'm trying to protect my mental rest. All of a sudden I get that text message, I'm gone, right? And they still come through. Everything comes through. But then for me, I'm going, I got to protect this. I got to watch this. Your sensory rest. Screens, and more screens. Turn off a screen or two. Disengage for a while. Go on a walk. Eliminate the sensory overload. Because what it does is it makes us really numb. Sort of numb. Like we're just taking in. And this is what I still need work at. Because doom scrolling is just easy, right? It's just like, man, it's like, it can feel like an escape. It can feel like a getaway. But is it? Is it productive? Is it helping you? Do you need a sensory rest? Number 4, creative rest. I love this one because I am a firm believer. I will tell you time and time again, I will argue. Like this is one of those things, like I'll argue with you, but I'm not going to change my perspective. You are all creative. I'm so sick of all of the personality assessments that always label one personality the creative personality. The reason I'm sick of it, it's not because they're not creative. They are probably more creative than you, and that's okay. But it makes us think that we're not creative at all. Like because I'm a 3 on the Enneagram and not a 4 on the Enneagram, well, I'm not that creative type. I am creative. I was created in the image of a creator. I was designed to create. I may not make beautiful art. You don't want me to paint for you. That doesn't make me not creative. There's ways that I can express my creativity. Every single one of you is creative in something. Find that thing and find a way to fuel it. For a lot of us, you don't think you're creative because you've actually, maybe even at your work is exhausting your creativity. How do you rest your creative and fuel it? How do you rest your creativity so you can fuel it? For me, a lot of times, like this may seem like an odd example, but this is where my mind goes to. When I want to get really creative, my creativity is fueled by what I starve. Let me explain. If I want to really think and dream up things for the church, I actually go and I mute all the churches I follow on Instagram. Because actually, they kill my creativity. Because then, rather than trying to be creative, I just want to copy. Oh, we'll just do what they did. We'll just do it that way. I saw it on social, let's just copy and paste. That's not creative. If you copy, that's not creative. Like it may be a solution, and it may be really, really helpful. And there's times where we don't, right, in your industry or in your job or in your life, sometimes we don't have the time to be creative, and we just need a good solution. And that's fine. But if I'm trying to be creative, I'm not just looking for a solution, I'm looking for creativity. I want to think, I want to dream, I want to create space for it. So are you creating rest in a way that fuels your creativity? Have you felt like you've lacked it? Go find a way. Build into that. Next one, let's keep moving. Emotional rest. Whoo! Some of y'all need some emotional rest. Are you irritable? Are you crabby? Are you angry? Are you frustrated all the time? Are you venting? Does it just come out of you? Are your emotions constantly spilling out of you at times when you don't want them to? Don't you hate it when the emotions choose to show up at the wrong times? And you're like, not now. But you can't help it. You got to feel what you got to feel. But usually the reality is when we lose ourselves emotionally, it's an indicator that we didn't handle something earlier. That emotional response was a reaction. Essentially, you were reactive because you were not proactive. So when I explode emotionally, I go, whoa, I've not rested emotionally. I've been allowing myself just to fuel this. I've been around things that trigger negative emotions in me. I've been fueling myself with stuff that's working my emotions up. Here's what's interesting. Because emotions always want to be a demand to be felt, we have this natural instinct to feed emotions and to prove emotions, right? So if I'm upset towards somebody, let's just take a social situation. If I'm emotional towards somebody, I'm trying to find out everything wrong with them to prove why I'm upset with them. Like the more wrong that they are, the better I can feel about my emotions, right? There's this natural inclination to fuel it. When in reality, what we need to do is we need to give it a rest. Your parents ever tell you to cool down? You ever tell your kids to go cool down? What are we doing? We're giving our emotions breathing room. We're giving it a rest. We're giving it a break. You ever just been in a fight and you just walk away for a little bit and all of a sudden the fight doesn't feel so bad anymore? If your emotions are running your life, have you been giving it a rest? Have you been taking time and giving it a space to calm down? And the emotional rest is really connected to the sixth one, which is social rest. And this one, you can really dive into the depths of it. And I really, again, I hate when we typecast humans into two categories. For example, it's like, hey, you're either introverted or you're extroverted, right? You're one of two. And I feel like people are all over the place. I've found there's introverted extroverts, extroverted introverts. But I will say there are a lot of rest needs to be a pulling away, right? Or when you're going after rest, you have to be so particular about who you let in. And I want to be clear here. This is biblical. I'm going to back it up biblically. You actually need to understand which relationships in your life drain you and which relationships in your life fill you. It doesn't make the person who drains you bad. It might just be the season of life they're in. It might just be the dynamic of the relationship. You might just be older than them, and they want wisdom from you and mentorship, and that's good. That's healthy. But you need to know, when I'm done being around them, do I feel fueled or drained? Because here's the reality. The relationships that demand the most of us are screaming for our attention and our time. And they usually try to get on our calendar. And they find their way on our calendar. When you look at your calendar and all of your social engagements, how many of them did you set and how many of them found you? Because usually the ones that find us are people that maybe want something from us or need something from us. And what happens is, when that takes place, we start to actually not make time for the relationships that fill us. And all of a sudden, the relationship that every time you hang out with them, you bust a gut laughing, which laughter is healing. Laughter can be a form of rest. And you're just like, every time I'm with them, it's easy, it's fun, it's not drama, it's awesome, and I'm around them and it gives me life. You don't have time for that friendship. And that special friendship starts to drift. And you don't prioritize it. You don't make time for it. So when you think about social rest, you actually need to, when I'm going after rest, I need to protect it. I'm going to be so intentional about who I add in. If there's a social thing on my Sabbath, we got to be careful about that. You got to be careful about what social engagements you would add to your Sabbath. Is it going to give me rest or is it going to make me tired? Or is it going to wear me out? Which one is it? And that does not, you're like, oh, Pastor, that sounds so cruel. Really, you're going to distinguish people that way? Well, Jesus did it. He's with a crowd and people are milling it about and he goes, you 12, come with me. Let's get out of here. They are coming and they're taking so much from us. We need to get away to a solitary place. So was Jesus just picking favorites? And is that bad leadership? Or was Jesus being intentional and understanding, hey, when we get together and it's just us, something special happens. And there is a time and a place for the crowd, and there's a time and a place for us to get together, just us, and have this moment and to share this. So Jesus modeled that for us, that when we're going after rest, when you're going to the solitary place, you've got to be intentional about who you add in, who you add into that time. Social rest, be intentional. Sometimes you got to pull away, and that is okay. The final one, as the keys come on up, and this one bleeds into the other 6, obviously, it's spiritual rest. Spiritual rest. And I want to make it really, really clear. This wasn't anything that the doctor mentioned, but for me, how I distinguish is this spiritual rest is I really look at all of the material of the world, and I go, is what I'm doing all about the material, or is it about the spiritual? Because if I'm, say on my Sabbath, I'm just consumed with the material and all the stuff of life, it's really hard for me to engage in the spiritual. So part of that Sabbath, a part of that rhythm and that add-in is I'm saying, I want to create space for me to engage with Jesus. Because he says he's the author, perfecter of my faith. He's the one that says he wants to take the burdens. He wants to give me rest. He's the one that wants to offer this to me. So if I am not creating space for him, what am I even doing? And usually, how do I distinguish which form of rest I need right now? It's usually the Holy Spirit that helps me do it. The presence of God. Spiritual rest going, hey, calm your mind. Your mind's going crazy. You don't need to think about that right now. Breathe. Calm down. Rest. Be in my presence. Spend time with me. Ultimately, church, as I answer the question of what is rest, to me, rest has to be restorative. Rest is designed to be restorative. Rest is restorative. But the question is, what part of me needs restoring? Where do I have a deficit? Every single one of us is going to maybe ping even a different number more. Maybe for you, you're like, it's social rest. Oh my gosh, my social calendar is out of control. All my friends are getting married at the same time. They all want to see the fall colors, the fall leaves. I've been around people too much, and I want to pull away or scream. Get some social rest. Get some. Maybe for you, it's mental, and you're like, everything in my life is stressing me out. It's mental. I'm going crazy. What are some rhythms you need to build in? And maybe there's even a little bit of effort attached to that. For Renee and I, our mental health, one of our rules and our rhythms is we clean our house every night. You might be stressed because you're living in a mess. Clean it. Right? The Holy Spirit might even lead you to some of those things. What are some of those rhythms you need to build in? Some of you need emotional rest, creative rest, sensory rest, physical rest. But rest often, it does, church, it requires rhythms. Are you going to build in rhythms? Do you have a Sabbath? I'll leave you with this verse and this thought. I don't believe it is possible to receive the rest of Jesus without a Sabbath. I'll be that strong. And the reason why is because it's a commandment. Oh, no, that's an Old Testament commandment, Pastor Sam. No, it's not. Have you read Hebrews chapter 4, verse 9 through 11? Hebrews chapter 4, verse 9 through 11. There remains then a Sabbath rest for the people of God. It's not just then, it's now. There remains a Sabbath rest for the people of God. For anyone who enters God's rest also rests from their works. Anyone who enters God's rest. Now, isn't this interesting? There's a distinction here by the author between resting from work and entering God's rest. Essentially, you can be idle and not experience the rest that Jesus is offering. You can be sleeping and not resting. You can be idle and not resting. You can be sitting on your couch and not resting. Because the invitation is to enter God's rest. But God's rest has requirements. And it has rhythms. You got to take a Sabbath. Oh, Pastor Sam, you don't understand. If you only knew my schedule, I can't find the time for a Sabbath. What did I say at the beginning? You'll never find the time. You have to make the time. And the author of Hebrews encourages the same thing. Because just as God did from his, let us therefore make every effort to enter that rest, so that no one will perish by following their example of disobedience. Not taking a Sabbath is disobedient, and it actually can lead people to perishing. And it says to make every effort to enter the rest that Sabbath offers. Have you made every effort? Every effort would mean other things got to go. Well, you don't understand what Saturday's like, Pastor Sam. Okay, what do you need to do to clear it? What do you need to do? You don't know what Sunday's like. What do you need to do? What do you need to do for fight for space, to fight for time, to fight for the areas of your life that has deficit, to fuel it, to fill it, to allow Jesus to bring health in that area? But the problem is we live in a world that doesn't go after healing, it goes after medicating. And so that builds this byproduct of as long as I just medicate it and sedate it. So maybe that beer gives me rest. Maybe that drug gives me rest. Maybe that cuts the edge enough that I can keep going. Sabbath is not about cutting the edge. It's about actually bringing healing and wholeness and health to your life. But the rest that Jesus offers, according to Scripture, is not possible without it. I've got to carve a 24-hour period of time that is different than the rest of the week. It doesn't mean it has no activity. We don't live under the Old Testament law of fear of work on the Sabbath. Because Jesus, even right when the disciples were breaking off heads of grain, he's like, it's okay. When he healed on the Sabbath, he goes, it's okay. There's this reality. It's time that's set apart to get healthy, to rest, to not produce and try to have this production mindset, to not work so hard, to just rest. And it's going to take effort. You have to work sometimes a little bit more effectively the other 6 days. Not harder, I've found, just more effectively. Because when we get really honest, there's so much wasted time. That's why I know you can find it. Because you waste time, I waste time, we all waste time. Waste a little less time and make every effort to find yourself in this rest. You can create a Sabbath, and it will begin to build in a rhythm where you can attack the deficits in your life through the power of the Holy Spirit. Let's take a moment, let's pray. Just bow your heads, close your eyes. Just be in this moment for a second. And then we're going to leave. But I really feel the Holy Spirit telling me, he's reminding me of how bad I've been at resting throughout my life up until even this last year of actually, I didn't really have a Sabbath until this last year, really, that I understood and went after. And so I just really hope that my heart was conveyed here. There's no condemnation in this message. Just hope and encouragement. An opportunity that if you fight for this, if you work for this, it's not going to be easy at first, but it's going to fuel something and fill you with something that's so worth it. And if money's the reason why you don't want a Sabbath, do you trust God? Again, you're just a steward. Do you trust Him? That His commandments are true and good and pleasing and perfect for you. And He offers you this gift of rest, but He requires that you take breaks to pull away, to get away, to rest. Rhythms of breaks, not just dramatic trips once a year, rhythms of rest. So Jesus, I come to you right now, Father, and I pray. And I intercede for every person in this room, whatever's standing in the way of their rest. Would you speak it to them? Would you show it to them? Would you bring solutions to us? Would you bring creative ingenuity on how to rest better as a family? God, I pray specifically right now for those with little kids. It can feel impossible. It can feel so hard. But God, I pray even in the midst of that chaos, they'd find those moments to pull away, to rest, to create some rhythms on those days off as a family. That Sabbath, God, I pray for the parents in the room that Sabbath would be a family affair, that they would build in those rhythms together, that the kids would know it looks different. Would they figure it out for themselves? Would they work it? Would they test it? And God, I pray you'd be so clear where our deficits are. Where are our deficits on this spectrum? Which of the 7 areas of our lives are we needing a little more effort, a little more work? And God, as we come, and I pray that we would see rest not as something we have to earn and deserve in order to get, but we would see it as a gift, that one day a week we get a gift of rest. One day a week you have built into the fabric of your creative story this day of rest. Help us to find it, to stay in it, to receive it. And God, I pray for rejuvenation for this entire room. God, that this would be a week where we can find it and start on the right path to resting in you, Jesus. Thank you for who you are, the example you set, and you went before us. In your name we pray, and everybody said, Amen. Amen.